Hey guys, if you've got a 2000 watt hour power station, something in that capacity class, or maybe even a little bit more, you know that these guys require a lot of solar in order to fully recharge in just one day. In fact, you would need about 400 watts of solar to fully charge this in a day of good sun conditions, kind of like we have today. And if you've tried doing this with 4 100 watt solar panels, or maybe even 200 watt solar panels, you know that it can be a little bit of a pain in the neck to try and kind of reposition these panels periodically throughout the day. And just the setup process can be a little bit of a pain because you're having to string panels in series or parallel or whatever is required for your particular charge controller. And then you've got an option where maybe like this 400 watt rigid solar panel here, I mean, how are you going to pack that unless you have it permanently mounted on top of, say, a camper or an RV? So it's just very unwieldy. Well, what if I told you you could get a 450 watt portable solar panel? But this is by a company called Zup Power. This is a new product, 450 watts. As I said, it weighs about 27 pounds. I think just a hair under 27 pounds. Whereas, and again, this is 450 watts, whereas this 400 watt rigid panel weighs something along the order of 50 pounds. So quite a bit heavier and much, much harder to pack. Now, this is obviously not small. No 400 watt plus solar panel is going to be small, but this is significantly more packable than something like this. So what I want to do is get this thing out of the box here in a minute, or out of the case, and we're going to set it up and see if this will fully charge this 2048 watt hour power station in a single day of sun. Now, it is already almost 10 a.m. and the sun is coming around pretty quickly, but let me quickly just go through the specs here for you. Its volt open circuit rating is 45.9 volts. So you need a power station that can handle at least that, say, 48 volt or higher input. You don't want to plug this into a 30 volt max power station or you will fry that charge controller. So it's something you definitely want to be aware of. And it has a short circuit current of 12.4 amps. So ideally you want a power station that has a current rating on the charge controller of at least, say, 15 amps, so that you're not clipping and that you get the full benefit of this 450 watt solar panel. And looking at the manual here, it does say it uses ETFE coated cells, which means they're going to be pretty durable. It's got an aluminum alloy frame. It's got an IP68 waterproof rating, which means you can leave this out in the rain, in the weather, and it's going to be just fine. And this solar panel is using monocrystalline N-type solar cells rather than the P-type solar cells. So that is why you're seeing a little bit of a higher voltage output for something like this than you would a more common P-type portable solar panel. So let me show you what's in the bag and what it comes with. So lots of cables. Looks like there must be MC4 coming off this thing. So there's a real nice 12 gauge MC4 extension cable that goes to an adapter cable that has multiple connectors on it. So it's got a DC 7909 with a DC 8020. So that's good for if you happen to have one of the newer Jackeries or even one of the older Jackeries. And then it's got a nice hefty Anderson connector and then an XT60 connector. So the cables this comes with actually has you covered for all of the most common connector types that most power stations are using these days. And then it looks like there's some other stuff in the bag. So it looks like some tie-down stakes for the legs. So that's nice. There's a lot of surface area here on this 450 watt panel, and you want to make sure it's not going to get blown over in the wind. So this would help you do that. All right, let's get this beast set up and see how it performs. All right, this is definitely not just a dual panel fold out. It is a 4-panel fold out. I should have known that by the number of leg stakes that were in the bag there. But let me go ahead and get this thing folded out. We'll just see what we're dealing with. All right, so far so good. I kind of like how these little legs pull out. Make this relatively easy to deploy despite the length. This is kind of a beast. Actually, I don't think under normal conditions wind would be a concern on this thing. It does feel really solid, and it's got a nice low angle for sun in the summertime season. So let's see how long this extension cable is. I really like that they give you very heavy duty, nice heavy gauge cables. All right, so I would guess that's about a 3-meter extension cable with another ½ meter or so on the adapter cable, this multi-headed adapter that's already attached. Let me go grab my multimeter. I just want to check and see what we're actually getting out of this. Oh, this has a really nice squeeze tab MC4 connectors on the adapter here and on the extension cable. That makes it really easy to disconnect them rather than having to dig your fingers in there or use one of those little spanner tools to get in there. Be right back. Now, if you were wondering what I was talking about earlier about these easy disconnect MC4, there's this little squeeze things right here that allow you to pull it apart. In fact, you can do it with one hand. I mean, you can't do that with a regular MC4 connection. It's just not going to work. All right, let's actually check the volts open circuit that we're getting on these connectors here off the panel. Let me connect my multimeter here and we'll just see what we end up with. All right, got my probes there on either end of the connector. Let's see what we're getting. 44.9 volts. So call it 45 volts open circuit. So that's right in line with what the manual says. So let me go ahead and connect these two connectors together and we'll get the short circuit current from the clamp. So to do that, all we have to do is connect these together like that. Super easy. And at least in the current position, now this is the thing that's going to be the most variable when you're doing a reading like this. So if you're in just absolute perfect alignment, most intense sun, best time of the year, that kind of thing, you might get something resembling their short circuit current rating, which as I mentioned is 12.4 amps. So let me flip you around here and show you what I'm getting. So we are getting 9.13 amps. And again, that's what I would expect, since if you look at the shadow on the corner here, you can see that it is definitely not aligned. The panel is not aligned. The sun is definitely in that direction over there. All right, it is noon. Let's check and see how it's doing. Now, I actually did check it remotely via the EcoFlow app, and I actually saw, I took a screenshot of it, I actually saw 455 watts. Let's see what we can see now. So we're getting 433 at the moment at high noon. And as you can see, we're at 30%. So it'll be interesting to see if we make it to 100%, given the fact that we didn't start until almost 10 a.m. So I got to say, I'm pretty impressed with this portable panel. It's actually producing very well. And just so you can see what we're dealing with here, the sun is a little bit in and out of clouds. So we don't have a pristine clear sky, but we do have very clear sun at times. So if I look a little to the west, you can see more white puffy clouds. So we're getting a mix of clouds and sun. So we'll see how that does. All right, it is about 5:25 in the afternoon, and sometime in the last, I don't know, 20 minutes or so, I think this thing fully topped off. Yep, and we are at 100%. So despite the less than perfect conditions, although they were pretty decent, this ZOUP Power 450 watt solar panel has actually performed extremely well. And in fact, throughout the day, I was monitoring this thing remotely using the EcoFlow app. And pretty much anytime the sun was out fully, I was getting well over 400 watts. In fact, I was getting typically 420 to 433. And we did see how it capped out at 455 watts, which is outstanding performance from a panel that's rated for 450 watts. I would have been happy with anything close to 400, to be honest. And this thing just kind of exceeded my expectations. All right, real quick, I didn't mention the dimensions, so let's talk about that. So the unfolded dimension in terms of length here is 121.85 inches. It is 34.57 inches in this direction here, and it is only just a little less than an inch thick. And that's not that important really when you are unfolding it. Now, when you fold it up, you still have the same 34.57 inches in this direction here. The thickness, since these four panels accordion together, comes out to just about 3.5 inches, slightly more than that, 3.54 inches. And then in this width here, which would be the width of the folded one, is only 3.43 inches. And as I think I mentioned before, the weight on this is just a hair under 27 pounds. So very, very manageable. And so yeah, I'm very impressed with this ZOUP Power, even though it's spelled ZOUPW, it stands for ZOUP Power. But the brand has done an excellent job on this product. And I checked on Amazon and it's currently selling for actually just under $1 a watt. So it's just, I think it's $440 $47 or something like that. And if I can score a discount code from the brand, I will certainly leave that in the description below. I don't know off the top of my head if I will have one, but check down in the description below to see if there is one there for you before you pull the trigger on one. And of course, I'll leave a link to this where you can get it on Amazon if you're thinking about grabbing one of these. So very, very useful to have a single panel provide all the power that you need for something even in that 2000 watt hour capacity class. And really, this got the job done in less than a full day of sun. I'm still being blinded by the sun out here, and we topped that thing off, and we had periodic clouds. So just really, really good output on this. Hopefully you found something useful in the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up on it. If you have any questions about this particular panel that I didn't cover, leave those down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to try and get back to you and answer those if at all possible. All right, thanks for joining me for this video. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, have fun out there.